Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester once again with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast, and I'm so excited today. I have a really good friend of mine, Chrissy Metcalf. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's going to share her amazing story with you, and she is an amazing person, a light to this world, and just a good example, and you guys are going to love her story. I want to thank all of you for supporting this podcast. I pinch myself. I can't believe where we're at. And I want to thank our sponsor, Veracity Networks. Thank you for believing in me and allowing this platform to share amazing stories that inspire and help other people to feel like they're not alone. And Chrissy and I were just talking about that before we started here, how sharing our stories really helps others realize I'm not alone, you know? And so anyway, so Chrissy, she's very passionate about volunteering. From her teenage years, she's always sought out opportunities to help those in need with Special Olympics, hospitals, her kids' schools, and the most recent project, which we can talk about more, helping at the In-Between, which is a hospice for the homeless, which is really cool. She's a past recipient of the Hearts and Hands Award, as well as many other recognitions. She has an innate ability to make others feel at ease, which I can attest to. She really, truly does. She has a beautiful smile, and she makes people feel safe. I love this. She has been through a lot, actually, as well, and overcome some personal traumas. And she says that she's able to overcome those by looking outward and helping other people.
That's true.
And I just thought that was really cool how you said that. And let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So, we won't get into the details yet, but how is that helpful for any of us to help reach out and, look beyond ourselves?
Well, I think anytime you're able to step out of your own life and really serve other people, it lifts you up. It doesn't matter what you do. I mean, it's just like magic.
Yeah.
And so I figured that out a long time ago.
Wow.
So. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think, just reaching out and helping others. And I think this is one of the reasons why I do this here is this is part of us reaching out, and you're gonna touch thousands and thousands of lives with your story today, and people, you're gonna love it. So let's get a little background on you. Where did you grow up? A little bit about your family and
so I grew up in Southern California, in the Valley in Studio City.
Really?
And yeah.
Okay.
And let me start off. So my mom told me I was really smart as a little kid. Like, she said I could speak in full sentences by the time I was like a year and a half.
Okay.
And I didn't have a baby voice or a lisp or anything. I just spoke really clear.
Yeah.
And I like to talk, which not a lot has changed.
That's true.
And I made really good observations. So I knew that at an early age. And so I just was always thinking I was really smart. I had really high self-esteem for a little kid.
Sure.
I like to visit people. It was kind of weird, but I would visit my neighbors without an adult.
Really?
So I would kind of wander my neighborhood, knock on people's doors, and just talk to them, and they would let me in. And so I made a lot of friends that were older ladies. I assumed they were older. They seemed older to me. They didn't have small kids at home.
Right.
So I made friends with some of my neighbors. I would visit a lady that had a dog, and she would let me pet her dog and give me donuts. Wow. And there was a lady that lived kind of a kitty corner to my house. And I don't know what these people did for a living. I was so little when I was visiting them. And she had a lot of wild animals that she would put back together, squirrels and
really?
Crows that were injured. And so she'd let me look at her animals. And yeah, so I really was out wandering a lot.
So very confident, it sounds like.
Yeah. So fast forward, I did a lot of wandering my neighborhood. I talked to a lot of strangers, and I ended up getting molested.
Because of that?
Yeah.
Because you had wandered into obviously someone that took advantage of this innocent girl coming around.
And I was probably 4, I would imagine. It was before kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
So, and I knew that I knew it was wrong. And, but I mean, it continued. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was an ongoing problem for me. Okay. And I finally, at one point, worked up the courage to tell my mom what had been going on, because I was scared, confused, all those things that happen when you're young and that happens to you. So I ended up like working up enough courage. I remember like having like, I've got to do this. I've got to stop this,
Yeah.
And, so I went in. Yeah.
Well, real quick. So you were in 4th grade when it happened?
No, I was 4.
Oh, you were 4 years old.
4 or 5.
Oh,
Yeah. It
wow.
was right before I went to started school.
So
I was little.
So you said it continued. Was this person, were they just saying, hey, kind of keep coming back to the house kind of thing?
I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only kid involved.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not pretty sure. I am sure that it wasn't just me.
Right. Okay.
So it was just like, something going on in the neighborhood that.
And how long did it continue before you started building up the courage to say something to your mom?
Time is so weird when you're little.
I know.
I couldn't tell. It had, who knows, like maybe 6 months.
Okay.
I don't know.
So it went on for a while.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah. Because I was, super confused and,
right.
Not sure what was going on. So I went in to talk to my mom. This is like burned in my memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went in to talk to her. She was getting ready in the morning, in her bathroom. And I know I didn't come right out and like make an intelligent, I didn't have an intelligent conversation with her about what was I didn't know what to call it.
Sure.
So I just kind of described what was going on.
Uh-huh.
And she was busy. She was trying to get ready to leave for somewhere.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't making sense completely.
Yeah.
And she totally blew me off.
Really?
Yeah. She's like, you got to get out of here. I was talking too much and she was trying to get ready and I annoyed her. And so she scooted me out of her bathroom and didn't like ask me any questions, hindsight. And my mom doesn't even remember this conversation. Let me just say that she doesn't have any memory of me doing this. And if it, as a mom, I would be like, what did you just say? But, hindsight's totally different. So in my mind, I was like, oh crap, she's not going to do anything.
Right.
And I was like completely devastated in my little mind. And I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. 'Cause you're going to someone that you're thinking mom's going to make everything right and better.
Yeah.
And then you get this kind of a brush off.
I did. I got a total brush off.
Wow. Did you end up trying to talk to her again about it, or did you just close off? Kind of
shut down completely? I not only like shut down, but I honestly started to not like her, which is kind of weird. But
well, you were hurt.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I distinctly remember just being like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with you at like 5, which is crazy.
Right.
But
again, you're looking for help and for some safety, and now all of a sudden you feel like, again, like we were talking about before, you felt probably alone.
Yeah, totally alone.
Now, after you had told her, had it still continued?
Oh, yeah.
So it still was going on? Even
I was stuck. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was totally stuck.
Did you feel threatened by this person?
I don't remember.
Do you remember where? Okay.
No, I don't. I'm sure I was, but I don't like have a distinct memory of that. Mm-hmm. I do remember like 90% of what happened, but I don't remember like feeling threatened at all, but I'm sure I was on some level.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never tried to tell her anything again. So I didn't know what to do.
Did she ever try to maybe even talk to you later down the road?
No.
Like, is there something wrong or none of that?
No.
Okay. Wow.
No, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I think it just was a different time.
Yeah.
Definitely and my mom seemed preoccupied most of the time.
Do you think maybe, and again, I know we're going back here in hindsight, whatever. Do you think maybe your mom did kind of hear what you were saying, but it was so scary to her to like, I don't even want to go there in her own mind. So if I ignored it, it didn't happen.
It's possible. Yeah.
I'm just saying,
no,
because I've heard that's happened.
I've thought that. Yeah. I've thought that over the years. I've talked to her about it a few times. And she's like, I don't remember that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure what I blurted out was really strange and odd and warranted a question or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure it freaked her out. And
yeah. So talk about kind of like, what did your day look like at that time? I mean, did you wake up feeling scared? Did you walk around? Did your confidence start to wane?
Oh, yeah.
Did you start to kind of shut down almost?
Totally. Like, it totally changed me. So by now I've started school. And I did okay in school until about second grade. And was constantly daydreaming. I mean, this is all I thought about as a kid. Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? And how am I, what's wrong with me? And now I'm broken and something's wrong. And I mean, there were other things that happened in the neighborhood too that just kind of reinforced like there's something wrong. There was a lot of older kids in my neighborhood. I don't remember there being a lot of kids my age. There were a couple, but mostly I hung out with older kids. And there was some boys that were really just awful. They would kill baby birds in my neighborhood, like right in front of us.
Oh yeah.
As kids, they would hold seances and it would scare the crap out of me. Right. So like all this is going on. And then I've got this other trauma heaped on top. And so by the time I hit second grade, I could not concentrate.
Sure.
All I thought about was like how awful my life was really on the daily. And so I started cheating in second grade. That was the only way I could get through. Yeah, we were learning like phonics or something, and whatever program my school had, like the answers were in the book. And so I would just flip to the answers, copy it all down and turn it in.
Right.
And so I wasn't learning. I was just like cheating.
Yeah.
And that was hard because I knew that was wrong. I just kept doing things that I knew were wrong. Like I was told, like, don't cheat. We don't do this.
Right.
There's like a list, like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And I was starting to have problems with a lot of them. And so that was just piling on my little brain. We moved in third grade. So we moved out of that neighborhood and moved into a different part of the valley.
Okay.
And so I started a new school. My parents put us in private school at this point.
Okay.
I'd been in public school. And so we had to wait for an opening. And so I started at the public school, like at the beginning of the school year, my third grade year. And then my parents got the call that there was a spot. So I switched schools kind of like in October, November probably. Yeah. So the school had already started and I already was like, I felt weird.
Yeah.
I was still really outgoing and friendly, but I felt like a fraud. Even in third grade, I felt like the biggest fraud.
That's amazing.
And it's a weird feeling when you're a kid to feel like this is just a liar. I was just a liar.
Man. So when you moved, did that stop the abuse at that time? Because you were now no longer around that guy.
Yeah.
Wow. And still nothing talked about with the family. Never. Did you act out in other areas? I mean, you were cheating. You walked around feeling like you were a fraud. Were there other things as well that you noticed that were, I don't know, that led to irrational behaviors or things like that?
Totally. I turned into like the naughty kid at school because I felt dumb. I missed some key concepts. And it's so sad because I started out thinking I was so smart. And then I just was crushed and felt like just dumb.
Wow.
And that the only way for me to get through life was just to cheat. And so I was kind of naughty at that school. I remember getting spanked by the principal in fourth grade for doing something stupid in the girls' bathroom. I mean, I just was like in trouble all the time.
Yeah.
And I think looking back, obviously, and with some hindsight and some I was just acting out, just trying to take pressure off myself. Just the internal thoughts I was having were just so sad.
Did you ever, I mean, you're probably starting to feel sad at this point at times, again, thinking that something's wrong with you, that you were broken. Did that lead to where you felt depressed as you got older? Because, I mean, you're in elementary school, then you get to junior high, and junior high is a minefield for all of us, right?
Oh, junior high is where it fell apart.
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Okay,
and
so,
you get to junior high and kind of what was going on.
Yeah,
at that
I'm
time.
sure I had depression. I know I had anxiety, but no one used those words when I was a kid.
Right.
It was just something, I don't even remember what they called it, but I remember feeling like anxious and depressed.
Yeah.
And so I get to middle school and I'm still at the same school. And it was the summer between 7th and 8th grade. I'd made some new friends that didn't go to school with me, but they lived in my neighborhood. And so we started hanging out that summer, and I was over at a friend's house and we were in his garage, like, I don't know, just looking around, and we found wine in a box. His mom had bought a bunch of wine in a box. Uh-huh. And so we all were like, well, we should drink it. So that was the first time I ever got drunk. I was 13.
Okay.
And I remember having a lot of fun. We thought it was like the best thing that ever happened to us.
Right.
And I was a fun seeker because I was so miserable
you wanted,
in my mind that was like what made me feel good.
Yeah.
So I looked for anything that was fun. And so, which led to a lot of bad decisions because it wasn't like good fun.
Right.
It was like the bad kind of fun.
Yeah. Which made it probably even more enticing, knowing that I know I shouldn't be doing this, but there's a rush to this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that became like our weekend thing. We just would raid his parents' alcohol cabinet. I had other friends who had lots of alcohol in their house, and we would all just get drunk on the weekend. And so school suffered even more.
Yeah.
I remember in 8th grade, my best friend and I decided we'd switch schools again. I don't know what my fascination was with switching schools, but I did it a lot.
Okay.
So eighth grade, we decided we're going to go to a different high school because the school I was in was like kindergarten through 12th.
Oh, okay.
So I left. And so 8th grade, they had like a little graduation ceremony. I knew I was failing classes.
Right.
And so I go through the whole ceremony, and they like had passed out diplomas like rolled up, and we get to the end and we're all unrolling our things, and mine's completely blank because I failed 8th grade at that point. And so I was like, what?
You're like,
I was like mortified. Like my
Yeah.
friends all had like their certificate with their name on it. Mine's blank.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such a loser. I'm just the biggest loser.
How was your parents at the time handling that? I mean, they probably know at this point that something's off with you.
Yeah.
You're doing some crazy things. You're failing school, or
I would love to say they were plugged into any. They just weren't. We kind of just did. I just did my own thing.
Okay.
By now, I had a really horrible relationship with my mom.
Right.
Very combative. I was aggressive and mean. And so I scared my family, quite frankly, with my behavior. And so nobody wanted to like confront me. My dad thought it was funny that my diploma was blank. I remember him thinking that's the funniest thing he ever saw. Yeah, they never took anything serious. It was really weird.
So were they kind of, and I'm not trying to bash on your
No
parents, but
judgment.
were they kind of checked out?
Oh yeah,
just like
completely.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
And that's probably where we're like,
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't remember I know I'm like probably exaggerating because I'm sure if you talk to my mom and dad, they'd be like, you had rules, but I don't remember having rules. I just remember doing whatever I wanted.
Or there and you're just like, I'm not following
whatever.
them.
And no one enforced any.
Okay.
So, and it was like that for my other siblings too. I mean, we just did whatever we wanted.
Yeah. Now, where did you fit in the siblings? Were you the oldest, youngest,
the second.
middle? Second. Okay.
And then I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters.
Gotcha. How was that dynamic? Were they kind of doing the same things you were doing?
My brother
or were you...
was.
Okay.
My brother was. Yeah, he was off the rails too.
Okay.
And not so much my sister. And then I have a baby sister that came along when we're 10 years apart. So she's like a separate family almost.
Yeah. You're almost like an aunt to her.
Totally. So, the next youngest sister, she had some problems, but nothing like me and my brother.
Okay.
So
were you close to your brother? Did you do things with your brother
sometimes
did you drink or things like that with them?
Yeah,
or?
we partied sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah. He was way worse than I was.
Okay.
But he didn't do he did okay in school. He did better than I did.
Right.
I don't know I don't know. I know what happened. I just wasn't plugged in when it was time to learn.
Right.
So I end up switching schools again, which gives me like a whole new friend group. So I had a lot of friends because I had so many different schools.
So were you still being kind of that outgoing kid where you're like talking to everybody?
No, I talked to everybody. I was like super fun.
So you had a lot,
and I had a lot of, so I end up at this new school. I have a lot of connections because the friends that I had made that summer between 7th and 8th grade, they just knew how to get stuff.
Right.
And so I end up at another private school, and I was the girl that knew how to get stuff. So I would bring my old friends to their parties. They'd bring drugs. And so I was very well connected
Yeah.
And probably ninth grade is when I started using drugs. I started with marijuana. And I probably only smoked it on the weekends, kind of was just partying on the weekends at that point.
Yeah.
And then by 11th grade, I was like heavily involved in, I did a lot of cocaine, a lot of like acid and shrooms, smoked pot every day.
Wow.
And found myself well, let me back up. So I went to this school for 9th and 10th grade, and I cheated, got caught, got in trouble, was like, I got to get out of this school. It's not working for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I had a lot of friends, but I was just ready to move on.
Right.
So I talked my parents into letting me go to the public school in my neighborhood. And they're like, okay. So I end up there, and that's where my friends were that I had met way back in 7th grade that I first started partying
with.
with.
That's right.
They were all at this high school.
Gotcha.
They stayed and went to that. So I was like, this is going to be great. So I show up 11th grade. My group of friends met outside the school at what we called the side gate, and we never went in. I mean, we would like figure out what we were going to do for the day outside of the school, and it rarely entailed going into school. Occasionally we got caught out there and they'd march us in, but usually we just made plans for the day from there. And it would be like the beach, somebody's house that the parents weren't home, and we drink and do drugs.
Wow.
And I got to the end of 11th grade with just straight Fs. And I knew I wasn't going to finish school. And so that summer, they're like, she needs to go to summer school. And I was like, so I signed up for that, never went. And by the time it was like my senior year, I dropped out like a month into school. I was like, there's no point in me being here.
Wow.
So I just quit going altogether. I wasn't even driving to the school at that point. I was just sleeping in. I started partying every day. I'd just wake up around noon, call my friends.
Yeah.
By now I had a friend group that was like a bunch of different ages. Like I had a lot of friends that were older.
Right.
I had a couple friends that were my age that dropped out too. But most of them are older. And so we just.
Well, so, you're here, you're partying with your friends, you're not going into the school. And I'm sure when you were with your friends, everything was great and fun. You guys are screwing around, doing your thing. But when you were alone, when you would, because we can all put on a mask that everything's great. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I love partying. I don't care about school. But when you get alone, talk about that for a minute. Like, what was going through your mind? How did you feel at this time?
It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible. I felt horrible. I felt so bad about myself. I had periods where I was, I had a lot of suicidal thoughts. I never made a plan to kill myself. It never went that far, but I had a lot of days where I was like, I don't want to wake up.
Right.
I just don't want to get up. I hope I'm not here tomorrow. I honestly was never serious about it, but I had plenty of days, more days than not, where I was like, I want to be done.
Yeah.
I want to be done. I just want to be done. I want this to all go away.
Wow.
And so I felt so helpless most days. But I could get rid of it really quick as soon as I got with my friends.
Yeah.
And I was stoned. I was fine.
Yeah.
I felt fine. I thought I was fine.
Yeah.
Obviously I was not. I was a wreck, but it took the edge off. It made life doable for me.
Yeah. Did you ever reach out to anyone even at that time, or were you still like, I'm not talking to anyone about this at this point?
No, I never said a word. I didn't even tell my friends. I didn't tell anybody.
Just kind of
I just stuffed it down. I thought it was like so embarrassing and like so. Looking back, most of my friends probably have the same situation they were dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we all found each other.
Well, yeah. And as you're saying this, I can relate so much. Your story sounds a lot like mine. And I think so many kids can relate, and people who are hearing this podcast right now are going to go, oh yeah, I know what that feels like. We put on that mask, but inside we're in misery.
Like utter misery. I look back and I'm like, trauma was the trigger. Trauma is what triggered every bad decision I ever made.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter like what type of trauma. It can be horrific, but it can be small.
Yeah.
It can just be your parents not clicking with your parents and them just making a bad comment.
Yeah.
Or just crushing your self-esteem. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
crazy trauma where you're like ruined.
Right.
It's any trauma.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you point that out, because as I'm listening to your story, if we go back, and it's just interesting, you said, you know, you were raised to believe that you were smart, and boy, the confidence that gave you, and innocent little girl doing her thing, and you're going around and you're just introducing yourself to people, and you fall into this dangerous trap that you weren't even aware of that was even there, and that was traumatic. But then you suffered even something even more, not more, but traumatic again when the response you got from your mom.
Yeah.
Or lack of response.
I think that was worse, honestly, Tom.
Yeah. Wow.
Personally for me, she had no clue, but for me, it made me really angry, and that created like a terrible home environment. My anger was really off the charts.
Yeah.
As a teenager, I was aggressive and crazy.
Yeah.
Toward her too, especially.
Right.
I had zero loving feelings for her as a kid.
Man. And, you know, and what I find too in your story, as you, like you said, you were basically running from those traumatic events, the opposite direction. You're just running from it, drinking, partying, doing drugs, dropping out of school, not going to school, doing all these things to try to, like you said, just trying to feel good because you ultimately didn't feel good.
I was looking for fun.
Yeah.
That was definitely my high. Just fun, anything fun. And that could be dangerous, crazy fun. I mean, I did a lot of crazy stuff.
Right.
I put myself in a lot of really bad situations thinking it would be fun.
Man. Well, let's jump ahead just a little bit. So you don't graduate, I'm assuming, from high school.
I don't.
So let's talk about that and then kind of move forward and what led to, you know, maybe a change and when things started to maybe change for you.
Yeah. So I dropped out, and I didn't do anything for like a year or two. I mean, my life was getting up. I barely worked. I don't remember. I mean, I had a job here and there, little part-time jobs, but my parents, bless their hearts, just would give me money.
Right.
And a car.
There you go.
And I had a whole lifestyle that I didn't deserve based on just what I was up to. They knew I was drinking and doing drugs. I mean, they caught me so many times.
Right.
And my go-to was always like, it's not mine, it's my friend's. And my mom it was just easier to believe that, you know, than really have to deal with what was going on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of what happened. I ended up starting to go to like community college. I'm like, well, I should probably do something. I was probably 19, maybe 20 when I was like, I should enroll in junior college. So I did that. You don't need a high school diploma to do that, I found out.
Right.
And then from there, I was like, I should probably get my GED. So I thought about that, but I was still I was probably a daily pot smoker for a solid 5 years of my life leading up into that. And that's just a very unmotivating.
Yeah. It robs you of your passion.
It does.
It really does.
It does. But I remember like in my laziness, I watched a lot of TV, and I started watching Oprah when she came on, the Oprah Winfrey Show, which is hilarious. But I remember like, it was like a moment in my life where I was like, oh my gosh, it just clicked. She was doing a show, and I couldn't tell you when it was, but it was pretty early on in her career. And it was like the 80s, maybe early 90s. And she talked about her abuse as a child. And that's the first time I had ever heard anyone talk about it like publicly. So she talked about being molested as a kid and being raped by a family member. And like, I just was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to her.
Yeah, you're like, oh my heck,
I know,
I can
I'm like,
relate with this.
So I was like glued to her show from then on. I was just like, I got to listen to what she's got to say. And I remember one day she said, let me back up, because what happened to her, she talked about all the bad choices she had made as a teenager. And she may have never said this, but this is what I heard. She said it's not my fault. Like that happened to me, and the choices I made, they're not my fault. And I heard that, and I was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
Wait a minute. And it just clicked in my brain. I'm like, this isn't my fault. Because I had a lot of guilt. I've had I felt guilty all the time. And I thought, I've ruined my life. I've ruined everything. I can't get my parents to love me. How could God love me?
Right.
This person that I don't know, never seen. Like that was such an abstract idea to me to think that there was a God that loved me, that I just was like, that was so far from me, this thinking that there was some higher being that actually cared.
Right.
And so when she said that, I was like, it's not my fault. It was just, it rang true to me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of filed that away. I don't want to, I didn't change right then, but there was a lot of things little small things that happened that I would listen to and be like, oh, that makes sense. It's not my fault. I would have never chose what I chose had that not happened to me. Yeah. I really believe that. I don't think I would have done 90% of what I did if that didn't happen.
Right.
And so another thing that happened is when I was like 16, I don't know who wrote me into this, but I ended up volunteering for the Special Olympics. I went through their training and their orientation, and that feeling I had that summer that I volunteered for them was so powerful. It felt so good. It felt good.
Right.
Like I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this feels really good. And I rarely had good feelings.
Right.
Up until that point, I mostly had really bad ones.
Right.
And so I made a note of that, like, oh, this feels good. I like helping people. I like being around people. And so I filed that away. I filed away what Oprah said on her show one day. But I kept thinking about him. It kept coming back into my mind as I got older and as my problems got worse. I had an abusive boyfriend. When I was 17 or 18, we met. And by the time I was 19, I was pregnant. And it was a miserable existence. I mean, I just was in the depths of
all the stuff piling
hell.
on you.
Yeah. I ended up having a miscarriage when I was 20 weeks pregnant, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I did that all by myself. Like my parents, my mom wanted nothing to do with that. And I ended up having to have a procedure that I got a friend to drop me off, and someone picked me up. She was just like, I'm done. I can't deal with this.
Right.
And so after that happened, I was like, I've got to stop. I can't do this anymore. I was so low thinking I just was like, it was weird because I was really low thinking, what have I done? Right. And I was really feeling free because I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm free. This isn't going to happen.
Right.
I'm getting another chance, a do-over. And so I went on vacation with my parents. I still had the same boyfriend. We were in the worst toxic, abusive relationship you could find. Yeah. And while I was out of town, I thought, I've got to get rid of him, but I've got to get over him. Yeah. Because I felt like I loved him.
Yeah.
And so
you were emotionally attached.
I was totally invested. It'd been 2 or 3 years of being together. And so I just had this thought one night while I was on vacation. I'm like, I'm going to pray. And I wasn't a very religious person up into that. My family was, but I was definitely not. Yeah, I kind of skipped out.
You were partying.
Most of that. I missed most of that.
Sure.
But I knew that I knew about it. And so I just thought, I had this thought, I should just pray and ask to just be done with this relationship and to quit loving this person. Uh-huh. And so I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. So I did that. And when I woke up in the morning, I felt nothing.
Wow.
I felt nothing for him. And I was free. For the first time, I felt free. It was really weird. Yeah. I mean, I still had all my problems, but I had this glimmer of hope. Yeah. Okay, that worked.
It worked.
That worked. Something went right. And so I broke up with him. And I literally never looked back. Now he kind of became a stalker, but that's another story. That's another podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast. Right.
But I was like, I'm going to take this second chance and I'm going to run with it and I'm going to get out of here. And I had met a friend. I had made a new friend somewhere in there. My timeline's so bad. And she was going to BYU and she's like, come live with me. Her boyfriend was on a mission. And so she talked me into it. And so I just moved in. We just moved. She was going back to school. I moved in with her.
Yeah.
I lasted till Christmas. And I was like, oh yeah, I can't do this because honestly, I came up here and partied.
Right.
So I hadn't like dealt with that.
Yeah.
So I like just came up to Provo and partied with everybody.
Yeah.
And so by December I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I was feeling like I needed to change and that wasn't helping me at the time. So I think that was like I think I was 20 when I did that. And so I moved back home and I was still struggling. I was starting to do things. I was starting to make better choices with my life, but I was still like definitely partying way too much.
Right.
And I don't know. I just thought there's got to be something better. And I don't like how I feel.
Yeah.
I started volunteering again. My brother took me to a place he was working at and volunteering at, and it was a cerebral palsy center. So all the residents had cerebral palsy, some varying degree.
Okay.
And so we would just go and visit and talk. And I was like, well, I can do that. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah.
So,
yes, you are.
So I would just go and visit and talk, and being with people that had bigger struggles than I did.
Right.
It helped me. And it helped me like realize that what I was doing was stupid and a waste of time. I look at these people that would give anything to get up and walk out and have a life, and they're stuck in a wheelchair. They're stuck with a mind that works, but a body that doesn't. And I just felt like a jerk and a fraud. And so there were just little things that kept happening to me where I was like, I got to do something different. And, I don't know. There were just like little miracles, I think, that happened in my life. Honestly, Todd, I had some missionaries show up looking for people.
Right.
And it was just the right set that came.
Yeah.
They were normal. They were quote normal. And
I know what you mean.
And I don't know. They're like, you should come to church with us. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so. But they kept doing that. And I was like, maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll just see what it's about.
Yeah.
And so I went one Sunday, and I think the people in my ward were shocked to see me there.
Yeah, they're like, whoa, look who just walked in.
Yeah, it was kind of, I felt like that. That was hard.
Did you feel like you were kind of being like judged? Like, what's she doing?
Not being.
You were.
Yeah.
For sure.
People just naturally do that. And so you just got to cut them some slack. But,
sure.
So yeah, I just was like, well, it felt good. It felt good. And, I started thinking maybe God does love me, and maybe he can be part of my life.
Right.
And so I don't know, that felt really good. And so I kept going. And before I knew it, I had decided to just quit everything. And I would love to tell you it happened like one time and done.
Right.
But it didn't. I mean,
it usually never does.
I know. I tried to cold turkey. I don't think I ever was addicted, though. I want to say that. Like, I don't remember ever having like this urge to do, like I had to do it.
Like I can't function unless I have a drink.
I don't think I've ever been addicted to drugs and alcohol, but it definitely took me probably about a year to get rid of it all. I hung on to the marijuana that was the hardest thing for me to quit.
Right.
Just because that was such a part of my life.
Yeah, it was a part of your daily routine.
Yeah, it was, and that's what it was. It was just a habit.
Yeah.
It was. I did it with my friends. And then I had to figure out what to do with my friend group, because they all were still doing the same stuff, and I tried to hang, and I did. I still went and did stuff with them, and I was totally upfront. I was like, I'm quitting all of this, you guys, and I'm gonna go to this church thing and see how that goes. And they're like, okay.
They're like,
you do
excuse
you.
me? What?
Yeah,
What did you
they're
just say?
like, whatever, you do you.
Yeah.
So I decided with my sister, she was going to transfer to BYU. And she's like, let's just go to Utah. We'll get away from everybody. And I was like, oh, do I want to do that again? This is like 2 years after I'd already tried that. And, but I don't know. We were just like, yeah, let's do it. So she transferred. I went to community college up here in Utah. And, I don't know. By then I was totally sober and clean. And I had been for probably 3 months or more. I felt really good.
Right.
But I was, so I came up here and honestly, I never looked back.
Wow.
I've never.
That's amazing.
Once I was finally done after my year of trying to be done.
Yeah.
I've never picked up I've never touched it. I've never had another drink.
Wow.
And it's been, like 6 years ago.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's amazing. I'm so just blown away, honestly. I really am.
It's a lot.
Well, no. And, because, I've known you for a long time, but I've never known all these details. And I appreciate you being so willing to share. I think back when you said, so you were watching Oprah and how she said, so here she is sharing her story.
Yeah.
Right? And she said one word or a couple words.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault. And you could relate because you're like, wow, it wasn't my fault either.
It rings so true.
Right? And the point I'm trying to make here is because she shared her story, look what it did to you and probably thousands of others. And that's what you're doing today.
Yeah.
You're sharing this. And I know someone's going to hear this and go, wow, it's not my fault either.
It's not.
And it I don't know, it chokes me up. I'm just
not.
like blown away when you said that.
It's what changed my life. It's silly to think it was Oprah, but it's kind of funny.
Shout
I
out to
chuckle
Oprah,
about
right?
it. Yeah. And then I was hooked to her show and it was so self-help all the time. And then Dr. Phil came on board and I was just like,
yeah.
But yeah, it really, she changed my life, honestly.
Yeah.
That was the thought that entered my mind that was like, I can let this all go. I don't own any of this. This is not me.
Yeah. Do you feel like, even though, I know the partying continued and you talked about that already. Do you feel like when you heard that, did you feel like you were almost could be healed from the traumatic events that happened when you were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old?
That's exactly what I heard. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, first of all, I wasn't alone. This happened to someone else. No one talked about it. So you just naturally think you're the only one.
Yeah.
And I was like, if it happened to her, it's happened to millions of other people.
Right.
And so I didn't feel alone. And then she told me it wasn't my fault. And I knew it wasn't my fault. It was like, I heard the truth for the first time.
Yeah.
That I would have never made all those terrible choices.
Yeah.
If I really felt differently about myself.
Yeah.
Or believed differently about myself.
Yep.
I really had just been listening to a lie about that I kept telling myself over and over. And then it would get reinforced.
Yeah.
Sometimes by my choices, sometimes by other people's choices.
Yeah.
But it just kept getting reinforced. And so when I heard those words, it was freeing.
Man. And that's the power of belief, good or bad. If we believe something negative about ourselves, the story we tell ourselves, it just becomes our reality, but it was a lie though. Even though you believed it, it was a lie.
It wasn't the truth.
It wasn't the truth. And so you hear that from Oprah, and then you had that experience with the cerebral palsy patients and how you were looking like, man, well, look at me. Why am I complaining?
Yeah.
Why am I struggling? Look at these people who are, being positive and happy and, so all these kind of little chipping away at your tough exterior, so to speak.
It was a process.
Yeah.
It didn't happen overnight, but looking back, I can find defining moments in my life where something changed, either for the negative or for the positive. And I can totally go back and pinpoint right where that happened and where my mind was like, oh, you don't have to believe that about yourself.
For sure.
Because that's not true.
Yeah. Wow. One of the things I teach my clients to this day is resentment breeds rebellion. And it's almost like you go talk to your mom about this at that age, and you got the complete opposite of what you were expecting. You resented that.
Yeah.
And what did you do? You rebelled.
Totally.
And you went all the way in the other direction. And it was just interesting that it's so common, and how powerful in a negative way a resentment can be.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
And so obviously, you come up here now and you move past all this. Did you still feel resentments towards the past, towards your mom at that time still?
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And
I had to work through that and ultimately come to a place where I talked to her about it, realized that she just didn't understand what I was trying to tell her. And I had to accept that that was the truth. She would never intentionally seek to hurt me,
right?
And so my parents did the best they could. And that's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
And I ultimately had to just forgive for my own self.
Yeah.
And really put it down and not, and don't pick that back up. I don't pick that up anymore. I have a good relationship with my mom. My dad passed away 9 years ago.
Yeah.
I had a great relationship with him, and I just there's no point in me holding on to that.
Yeah.
Because if you keep believing that, you're never going to be completely better.
Right.
In order to be a whole person, you've got to really let it go.
Yeah, you do. Forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for you.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm a believer in that. I can attest to that.
For sure.
They don't even care.
Yeah, they don't. No, and I love that. You're now, you're very positive, confident. People who know you would say this, confident, and I know I'm sure you have your moments behind the scenes.
We all do, Todd.
But we all do. But you are this powerful light. You're an influence on a lot of children in our own neighborhood that we both live in. We live in the same neighborhood, and you're just this confident woman again. And just talk about that now and how you kind of cultivate that now in your life.
So I remember in my early 20s, I was like, what am I good at? I had so many failures that I tried to make a list of my talents, and it was like looking pretty slim. Yeah. I was coming up short in my mind.
Right.
And so I was like, what am I good at? What are some things I'm good at? I just wanted to figure out, who am I? I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I had changed my, what I believed about myself, but I still didn't know anything about myself. I had spent most of my childhood, all of my teen years, just in a total fog.
Yeah.
And so I just started to think about what am I good at? What are my talents? And I realized after talking to family and friends, like, I'm really good at talking to strangers. Like, strangers come up to me, my family jokes, because I'm like the family joke. Anywhere we go, people talk to me. It's weird. Sometimes I reach out, sometimes I don't, and people still come up to me and want to talk. And and so anyway, I was like, well, I'm really good with strangers. I like to talk. That's never changed from the time I was little.
Yeah.
And I just looked for opportunities where my talents could be used. And for me, that's volunteering and serving people that I don't know.
Yeah.
They become my dearest friends.
Wow.
So I just would always look for places that needed me. And for me, with my history, I look for people that are like me, or still are still living how I was. And so I did take time off and just work and volunteer in the schools when my kids were little. Sure. But as soon as that was over, I was like, I need to find new people that I can connect with. And I've just found that people that live on the margins or of society are my people.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll find me most days.
That's awesome.
I can relate. I know just from all the talking I do with people, everybody has a story that involves trauma that I've discovered that end up in the situations where they're homeless. Yeah. There's a lot of family abuse or childhood trauma, being abandoned. You name it. And then without any kind of help or change, that's where you end up.
Yeah.
So those are the people I like.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's where I am now, volunteering there. I also volunteer and have it for about the same amount of time. In fact, it was these guys at the U that told me about the in-between. I volunteer for a couple of professors there. We run a documentary film class where we do they're about 8 to 12 minutes long, and we tell people stories.
Okay.
So
cool.
it's like a perfect fit for me.
Right.
So this is my 5th year doing that. And
Nice.
it's also my 5th year at the in-between. So I just go and I visit and talk to people, make friends, and
that's awesome.
do what I like to do. I still love it.
That's so cool. I think I couldn't agree more about, giving it away to someone else, helping someone else. I love that. If there's someone who's listening to this right now, if there's someone maybe they're in the middle of being abused even right now, as they're hearing this, what some advice that maybe you could give them, or if they know of someone who's being abused, what could they do to,
You got to tell someone. And if the first person doesn't want to listen, tell someone else.
Right.
It's so hard. That's the hardest part, is working up that courage to get it out. But the sooner you get it out, the better off you are, and someone can help you. Especially if you're a child.
Right.
You got to find an adult, a trusted adult.
Right.
It's weird. I can spot it now.
Yeah.
I just know the signs and what it looks like just from living it.
Yeah.
And so if you can, if you're someone that's dealing with that, tell someone, and just know it's not your fault.
Yeah, I love that.
It's not your fault.
Yeah. Powerful
and
word.
Choices that you've made that are bad aren't your fault.
Yeah. It's true.
We all, it's because of something.
Yeah.
I don't think we come here innately bad. Any of us, I think we come with a lot of hope, and when we're born, and
then
agree. Life kind of takes a toll, but it's not your fault. Not our fault.
Yeah. What a powerful message. It's not your fault. And I think that, how it empowered you when you just heard Oprah say those words. I think someone hearing it now is going to feel the same way from you. Because your story is amazing. Like traumatic at the same time, heart-wrenching, but amazing how all these little things towards the end here have led to what you're doing now. And, people I think who don't know you and just see you, they'd be like, oh, she's got a perfect life. She's perfect. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I know.
We all have a past, but even I knew you had some things, but man, I'm just like, I love you even more hearing this story. I just sit there and go, wow, you're amazing of how you've overcome this, and I don't know. I just think I'm so grateful you shared it with us today.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
I think one of the best compliments I ever got in my whole life was from a friend that works at the in-between, and she told me the best thing about, she was saying this to me, the best thing about you is you can find something in common with anybody.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, that meant so much to me, because I hope that's my hope.
Yeah.
Is that I can find something in common with anybody, and I just want to make people feel better.
Yeah.
That I meet every day, and that they're not alone.
Yeah. Well, you do a good job at that. And I hope that this belief cast that you've shared in your story today will get to thousands and thousands of people. We do have quite a big following, so this is going to be exciting.
I hope so.
Because I know there's some people out there who are going through a tough time. And that's why I do this, is to bring amazing people like you to come share your story of overcoming something like you have. And so thanks for the vulnerability today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Todd.
So if, excuse me, if someone wanted to reach out to you, if you're comfortable sharing, what would be the best way for them to do that? If they wanted to maybe ask you a question, or if maybe they're hurting and they just want to ask Chrissy something.
I guess you could shoot me an email. It's probably the best way.
Okay. What's your email?
It's Chris, CHRISMET, the number 10 @gmail.com.
Great. Well, there you go. And if you could give a challenge to everyone's listening right now, I mean, you've given a lot of advice, but if there's a challenge, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but is there a challenge you could give our listeners to, share their light or whatever that would brighten their day?
I would say really just look inside, see what needs to change. Like, I think that's so hard for people to really just dig in and look into their life, especially people that are struggling, and be okay with what's going on, and then try to change it a little. Reach out to people to get help. If you need help.
Right.
I think everybody needs help.
Yeah, I agree.
I think even people that think they're okay need help. I'm a big believer in finding help. Yeah. So I would say, if you need help, just do it. Just reach out to somebody.
Beautiful.
And know you're not alone. Yeah. Everybody's got crap. Everybody. Yeah. Nobody's going to escape it.
Yeah. Great challenge. Great advice. If I could ask you to read that out loud.
Sure. It says, the most delightful surprise in life is to suddenly recognize there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, I like to end my
That's so true.
belief cast with that. And there's nothing wrong with you.
Nothing wrong.
Despite what you've been through, doesn't mean, like you said, it's not your fault. Nothing wrong. Ultimately, you are always who you always have been, despite what you've been through. But boy, you sure have overcome something really hard. But you inspire me.
Thanks,
as I'm hearing this. It inspires me to want to be better and to help other people and to just reach out as much as I possibly can. More than
normal.
More than normal. But I want to thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
You truly are inspiring, and just thank you. I don't know.
Yeah. You're welcome, Todd.
Man, this was awesome, man. I'm just like blown away.
Oh,
truly blown away. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, there you go, folks. Another amazing story for you guys to be inspired by. Please share this with anyone you might know that is struggling with whether it's abuse or just feeling like they're less than. Share this because Chrissy's story will inspire them to rise above and be better. I love your support. I love you guys so much for this opportunity. Chrissy, thanks again. And please reach out to her. Send her a question on her email. Ask her anything. Obviously, she's an open book, and she loves to talk. And so there you go. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Todd.
Okay, until next time. See you guys.